With the 2 sheets of plywood all cut down to length and to width, we need to glue these together. These particular parts will form the horizontal sections of the leg assemblies, which would be rails or stiles. I always get those confused. Problem is there are a lot of parts. You could individually glue these and be very careful with the alignment, but the problem, as I said, is there are just so many parts that that's going to take forever. So the easiest way to glue everything up is what I've done here, which is batching them out. So each pair forms a leg. The problem is this is going to have a bit of a tendency to slide up and down, so up and down like that as you're clamping it. Now you could certainly use cauls. That would be where you sandwich 2 pieces of wood on either side of the lamination, do that in a few spots, clamp that down, and that should force everything into alignment. That works just fine. If you want to go that way, don't forget to put on your packing tape on the cauls and you'll have no problems. Another way is to use biscuit. Now, as I've mentioned in the past, I don't have a biscuit jointer, so I'm not going to demonstrate that. Instead, I'm going to use dominoes, specifically the 4mm dominoes. They're very small, they're not going to add any strength. In fact, I'd probably take away strength, but it's going to be used exactly like a biscuit jointer. For the glue up, obviously I'm going to be using the domino, as I said. However, I will demonstrate how to use cauls as well as an alternative method using salt. For now, however, I actually need to cut in all the domino slots, so we'll take a closer look at that. If you've got a bench vise with dog holes, this is probably the best way to do any dominoing because that's rock solid secure. It makes it super simple to undo that, move on to the next piece. We, being my wife and I, have gone through all the pieces and marked which we want to have as the show face and what will be the glued up face. What we also need to do is mark the top side. Now this doesn't mean it's going to be the outward facing edge, but it does give us a reference point for the glue up. That way, if my positioning for the domino is off, I know that all of these top faces were the reference face for the domino and they'll line up just fine. Now because this is a lamination rather than say joinery, we don't actually need to do any marking out. We can use the built-in stops to the domino. So using these reference stops on the underside of the domino plate, we can slide that up against the edge of the workpiece and no layouts required. I can't move that side to side. Plunge in from that side, plunge in on the other side, and rinse and repeat for all of those. So I mentioned alternatives to dominoes or biscuits for joining wood and doing it in a manner that's a little bit neater. Start off with cauls. Now I'm not going to do a full demo of cauls because I can't get to my packing tape. Let's say we want to join these 4 pieces of wood edge to edge like so. Problem is with glue applied they're going to shift up and down. So the easiest way is to apply packing tape to one side of each caul, which is just a piece of wood. Tape side in, clamp as you would normally, as well as in this direction. This method is just fine, and I do use it quite often. For some things it is a little fiddlier, so that's why I tend to go for the domino, because I've got that there. You do need to make sure you use packing tape or some other plasticky smooth tape, not masking tape or painter's tape, because the glue will just absorb right through that. The other method I will demo, because I can get to all the bits and pieces, is salt. Just regular table salt. The idea behind the salt method is that this acts as grit so that stops sliding around. It's a little bit like if you were to shoot a nail through. So we just get a little bit of salt, sprinkle that on. This isn't actually a technique I've used before, but have always meant to try. Now, already I'm seeing that it's not sliding at all, which is great, but I'm having to apply much more pressure because the salt basically needs to force its way into the wood and dent the wood on the inside, which is fine, you're not going to see that. So you just need to apply a bit more pressure than perhaps you would normally, because there is something in the way. So probably err on the side of less salt rather than more. I think I've got too much in there. I'm going to scrape some of that off, and with that extra pressure that actually closes up the gaps, and that actually works surprisingly well. So if you don't have a domino or a biscuit jointer or something along those lines, the salt technique may work pretty well for laminating all these pieces. So everything's glued and cleaned up. The next video will be on the tops, which is just about done. Then we'll be moving on to joinery. I'm just waiting for some extra plywood to be delivered. Thanks for watching.